Since the dawn of time, a rift has existed between casual and hardcore gamers. A struggle that has threatened to tear the gaming community asunder. The question on everyone's mind: should games be played to have fun, or to win? With no side seeming to have an advantage over the other, it seems like no resolution will ever be made. However, a small portion of gamers know the truth. The answer lies not in either side, but in an unknown third side. These sages, as they have come to be known, have kept the secrets of this third answer hidden for fear that the general public was not ready to understand. In early 2008, a game was released that would change everything. That game was Super Smash Bros. Brawl. And while most gamers did not know it at the time, that game embodied the very essence of this third way. The eldest sage called a meeting to be held in his mother's basement. It was decided that the time to teach the public of the mythical third way was at hand. A handful of third way's greatest sages were gathered and sent off to teach of their knowledge to the world. The wisest and most attractive of these sages realized the potential that the World Wide Web had in spreading his message. He began work on a great project, a video series to teach others of the third way. It would be his magnum opus.
Unfortunately, that man would later die in a freak accident while giving his cat a bath. This left me, his young apprentice, to finish the task at hand. This video is the first in that series. This is... Before I teach you how to play Brawl Like a Man, it's important to make one distinction. Playing like a man has nothing to do with actually being a man. That's right, it has nothing to do with the dangly parts you may or may not have. Some of the manliest people I've known are actually women. The phrase, like a man, is instead an incredibly rough translation of a philosophy that spans both Eastern and Western thought. YouTube probably would not allow me to have the title, How to Play Brawl based on the mixed philosophy following how a person chooses to walk their own path in life both honorably and as passionately as possible, Episode 6, The Case of the Honorable Lord Ike and His High Level of Understanding the Way, Part 2. Wrath of Khan. It's just too long. So, like a man is as close as I'm gonna get. The question some of you may be asking at this point is, why would I want to play like a man? This, of course, is a stupid question, and you should feel bad for asking it. I'll answer anyway. Let's take the example of the casual gamer and the hardcore gamer. The casual gamer takes a game home, beats it, and then abandons it thinking there's nothing left to it. The hardcore gamer pushes his play to its furthest limit, but he quickly finds his competitive spirit leads to hurt feelings and strained relationships with his friends. Playing like a man seeks the middle ground between these two. A follower of the way practices restraint while pushing his skills. By practicing this restraint, the gamer manages to keep the simple innocence the casual gamer enjoys while keeping the thrill of the competitive spirit. When you lose to a manly gamer, there are no hard feelings, only laughter and fun. Like everything, man fighting has rules. Now, there's no rule that can encompass the entirety of the third way, but there are 12 fundamental concepts that make up the core belief of the man-fighting philosophy. By learning these, it becomes easier to understand the third way. Rule number 1. Finish with a bang. This is quite possibly the most important of all rules, and should be in your mind at all times. No matter what the skill level, your opponent deserves to be finished in a cool way. This means always following your opponent off the edge for a finishing blow. To let an opponent die without a flashy finish is to dishonor them. Rule number 2. Manliness before victory. As a logical extension to the first rule, manliness is about style. This is the most important aspect of your play, even more important than victory. As such, it logically follows that self-destructing and killing an opponent in a cool way is more important than actually winning the match. The second you focus on victory instead of manliness is the second you lose the path. Rule number 3. Repeat. Don't spam. A good manly player will immediately identify his character's most manly moves and make note to use them often. It's not unusual to see a manly player using a Falcon Punch 3 or 4 times in a matter of 10 seconds. However, a manly player does not spam. Using Fox's laser 5 or 10 times in a matter of a few seconds is spamming, and therefore not manly. Rule number 4. Melee over range. Hitting an opponent in melee is almost always more manly than hitting them at a range. Rule number 5. Never attack during a taunt. Men don't attack during an opponent's taunt. To do so is to give power to the taunt. The exception is, of course, during any of Sonic's taunts. Always attack during those. Rule number 6. Fight your own battles. A man fights his own battles alone, and finishes his own opponents. Don't let anyone finish an opponent for you. This also includes minions of your character. So this means no Waddle-Doos, no Toad, no Pokemon, and definitely no Pikmin. Rule 7. No Johns. A real man makes no excuses for being a man. When you lose a fight like a man, you lose. You do not lose because of fighting like a man. Rule number 8. Don't take unfair advantages. A real man fights with skill, but will not use his skill to take unfair advantage of his opponent. Doing so is not manly. Yes, this includes edgehogging. Rule number 9. Don't touch the hog. Wario loves his bike. He worked for years to build his bike. Destroying his bike is just a low blow. Rule number 10. Violations mean death. Violating a man rule, intentionally or unintentionally, requires the player to self-destruct. Only then can honor be regained. Rule number 11. Find your own path. No two manly players play alike. In order to be a true man, one must find one's own way of playing. Don't copy others. A world without variety is unmanly. Rule number 12. No Marth. This one needs no real explanation. Just no Marth. Knowing the rules in no way makes you a manly player, but by taking the spirit and not just the word of these rules to heart, you can eventually reach that plane. There are rare exceptions to even these 12 basic rules. Except number 12. Eventually, your own judgment will be able to tell you what is and what isn't manly. Keep practicing, and one day, you too will learn how to play like a man. I leave you with the words of one of our wisest sages.
Thumbs up.
Ready, guys?
Let's do this. Leroy Dragons!
Wiser words are rarely ever spoken.
We're men in tights. We roam around the forest looking for fights. We're men in tights. We run from the rich and give to the poor, that's right. We may look like sissies, but watch what you say or else we'll put out your lights. We're men in tights. Always on guard, defending the people's rights.
On the next episode of How to Play Brawl Like a Man, a document from the future, the Man Tier.